Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day today. My name is Chris Reid, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about the movie Tenet. Some people love this movie and some people hate this movie, but I'm going to share my perspective on the movie. Before you continue watching, I do want to let you know there will be spoilers in this video, so the people who don't want the story ruined at all, you better leave now. To start this off, it's good to know a little bit about the concept of the movie. The main plot device is actually time itself. Christopher Nolan, who's the director of Tenet, has covered time in previous movies before. Movies like The Prestige, Memento, and Dunkirk all use nonlinear storytelling to their advantage. Christopher Nolan has maxed it to 100% this time though, and time is the main plot of the movie. This is the most Christopher Nolan movie that Christopher Nolan has made. You may be curious on how time plays a role in this movie, and to get a better understanding of how it does, you have to look at the title of the movie. The title is Tenet, and that word is actually a palindrome. If you don't know what a palindrome is, I'm going to play a quick lesson right here.
A palindrome is a word that is spelled the same forward and backwards. For example, the words mom, dad, and race car can all be spelled backwards and have the same spelling. Tenet is actually spelled Tenet if you spell it backwards. That is all there is to it. Okay, back to my review on Tenet.
Okay, how is that any bit relevant to how time works in this movie? Well, as you may have guessed, the movie itself is a palindrome. About halfway through the movie starts going in reverse, and you see the same plot points that were leading up to that point, but now backwards and from a different perspective, which is really interesting. It isn't obvious that this is gonna be a palindrome from the starting though, and I was a little bit confused. You may be smarter than me, so you might not be confused at all. But some of the hints are actually in the trailer itself. There's a trailer where the lady shows the bullet going in reverse that was originally going forward. Well, that's part of the time bending aspect, and it plays a part in the story too. But I still don't think you fully grasp this until you're about halfway through the movie and you realize that what you've seen is about to go in reverse, and some of the things that were on screen, like some things that were kind of random, they start making sense now on why they happened, because they were happening in the opposite direction but causing an effect in the forward direction, if that makes any sense. The movie itself actually has a quote early on in the movie. It says, "Don't try to understand it, just feel it." And I feel like that's kind of how the plot goes in this movie. Don't try to understand it, just feel it and kind of go with it. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I will say there's a kind of a slow burn up to the middle of the movie, but that's because there's so many details going on and there's actually a lot being thrown at you, but it kind of goes over your head the first time. I'm actually really excited to watch it the next time because I'm going to notice some of the details that I missed before. This happened when I watched The Prestige by Christopher Nolan too. There's so much foreshadowing going on, and it's just really cool to see how he puts those details in the movies, and then they end up being like a big part later even though you didn't understand them early on. I'm a sucker for this type of foreshadowing, so if you know any movies that foreshadow stuff like this, let me know because I want to watch it. Okay, so let's talk about the story itself now. This is a department of the movie that I think is lacking. Christopher Nolan isn't really known for his story aspects. If you've watched any of his previous movies, it's more about the premise of the movie, and it isn't any different here, and some might say the story actually isn't really good at all in this because it's mostly exposition. But I'm really into that type of storytelling. I like movies that Christopher Nolan makes. They're kind of like George Lucas movies, where George Lucas is kind of focused on the visual aspect. Christopher Nolan's like focused on the premise of a movie. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the story itself. All you really need to know, it's kind of an espionage movie but with some time bending elements. There's even some laziness in the writing. It may be a creative choice, but I don't know because I haven't talked to Christopher Nolan, but he actually names the main character the protagonist. When I first heard that character name, I just started dying laughing because like, who names their character the protagonist? I will also say the characters in the movie are kind of shallow. They have emotions, but I don't really understand their motives. People have pointed this out before who have reviewed this movie, and I do agree with them that it could have been better in the story aspect, but I think most of us going into this movie knew that it wasn't really going to be focusing on the story and more of the whole premise of the time thing going on. Okay, now I want to talk about the action scenes in the movie. These are actually my favorite scenes of the movie. There's so much going on that like you have to be really paying attention because there's stuff going in forward and reverse all at the same time from different perspectives. You actually don't notice this in one of the first action scenes. There's like a fight the protagonist has with this guy in like a black suit. I think they call them the inverts. It's been like 2 months since I watched the movie, so I don't recall exactly. But anyways, later in the movie you find out that the guy in the black suit was the protagonist fighting himself, but like you don't know that at the start of the movie. So when I seen that part later in the movie where you find out it's him fighting himself, well, my mind was blown. Another action scene that you may have seen from the trailer is the car going backwards. That's really cool because you still don't know that the movie's a palindrome yet, so you don't know exactly why stuff is going backwards yet. That's only like 10 or 20 minutes before you find out that the movie's about to become a palindrome, so then like they do the car scene shortly after that again. I just love seeing the whole movie from a different perspective and understanding why choices were made that seemed random the first half of the movie. It's cool to seeing how he planned all this out. Like, Christopher Nolan's like a genius in my mind. The last action scene I want to focus on in this video is probably the coolest part of the movie. There's like a war zone and there's people going forwards and backwards. There's like a blue team and a red team, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. One team is going forward and one's going backwards, and they have this crazy master plan of how this fight scene's gonna work out. I'm just gonna show some footage here of what's going on. It's kind of hard to explain, and as you can see, like, buildings are falling down and building themselves back up in reverse, and like explosions are going backwards and stuff. Some of the best visual effects I've ever seen in a movie. I don't know how they made it or how they did any of these visual effects, but it's really cool when you see it on the big screen. Speaking of watching this in the theaters, this was like one of the first movies I watched since the whole pandemic started earlier in this year, so it was nice to get back in a movie theater and see something on the big screen since my TV at home isn't the best. Okay, the last thing I kind of wanted to go over here because everyone talks about it when you read the reviews, what's going on with the sound of the movie. So the sound is very loud. The soundtrack is way overpowering in my opinion. I don't know if some of that has to do with being back in the movie theater setting with the louder speakers. The soundtrack was really loud. I didn't have the problem of not understanding the dialogue like some people who review this movie. I just thought the music was loud and everything was loud, but I could still tell what they were saying. Like I said, I don't know if it was the theater experience again that we weren't used to, but once I watch this on the small screen, I'll be able to tell how bad or good the sound experience was. Okay, that's all I really have to cover in this video on Tenet. I will say the movie was good and I do recommend going to watch it if you haven't already. If you have watched the movie, I would love it if you left a comment down below what your favorite scene was or what you liked or hated about the movie, just so we can talk about it. And for the people who do want to go watch it, once you do watch it, come back to this review and leave a comment and tell me what you thought of it. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'm going to do some more reviews like this in the future. They'll get better over time. This was actually my first movie review, so tell me if it's rough, tell me how I can improve to make it better for you guys, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you. Bye.